Oh my god, we're finally back. I can't believe it. It's the return of the Slips and Hippo show after, 4 or 5 months, something like that. As always, I'm your host, King Hippo.
This is Slips.
Slips. So full disclosure, we actually had one ready to go back in January like I promised. So I'm going to take 2 L's on this one. So I record the shows, and we recorded one, and then as it ended, I realized it didn't record. The classic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also ill, so I didn't sound very good. Anyways, so I guess it was, a double-edged sword. But we're back now. It's actually recording, so...
I'm surprised you care about how you sound so much.
It's
a free podcast.
It is a free podcast, but, I gotta hear it back, a million times in post. If I sound dumb, I don't like it.
All right, fair enough.
All right. How do you think you sound?
I have no idea. I have no formal training for radio talk or public speaking.
I was going to say, I don't think you have formal training in speaking.
Yeah, I'm as casual as it gets.
I see.
I'm the everyman. I'm like Rocky before he was champion.
I sincerely doubt you could beat anybody up.
Mentally, I'm Rocky.
I've always had a prevailing theory that after the fight with Apollo in the first Rocky, it knocked him smart. Because after that, you notice he speaks a lot clearer. He starts wearing, suits.
Kind of. He would try to do the commercials, and he still sounded like an idiot.
Yeah, but he got better. By the time he's Rocky 3, he's essentially just a rich guy.
He definitely had a lot more social confidence after that fight.
He got that robot.
That's when after he beat Apollo, then he was just like,
is that in Rocky
I can
4
do what
or
I
Rocky
want.
3 where he has the robot?
That was Rocky 4.
Yeah. I don't know.
He hadn't made it at that point. He figured out life.
He's got a robot.
That's when you get a robot, is when you figure out life.
It has a very dramatic intro, too. The door opens and, smoke comes out. And
it's still a pretty good-looking robot to today's standards, I think.
I guess.
Back then, you probably thought that was the future.
Yeah, we probably did.
When did that movie come out? Sometime in the 80s?
It's probably 86, maybe? Late
That's
80s?
when Rob the Robot was out, and he could help you put in your Nintendos. Robots were we were thinking about that in the 80s.
He does look Robbish. That's true.
Right. We thought they were going to be, and then iRobot, that movie came out, and then everyone was
2000.
Everyone was like, we can't do the robot thing.
Yeah.
It's too creepy.
Hey, you remember Mortal Kombat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that franchise. So, Mortal Kombat 11.
A little off the rails.
A little bit, but I think that's why people listen.
All right.
Mortal Kombat 11 is on its way out. It's coming out in April. We're recording just after we heard the Kombat Kast, the first Kombat Kast back, where they have a new studio. And they showed off Kabal for the first time. Kabal.
Dude, he looked great.
Freshly burned. Well, there's also an unburned version, so.
Dude, he looked great. He looked really cool.
Great choice to have him use his hook swords all the time, I think.
Dude, everything about him was cool. I don't even, care about Kabal as, someone who pretty much just pretty loyal to Scorpion. But, dude, he looks super cool. That haircut was cool. He's got that modern day haircut with the man bun and all that crap.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
That's hilarious.
One of my sticking points with Kabal is, I always...
showed.
Yeah, he does seem like he'd be kind of an asshole, though. Right?
He is. He's probably the biggest asshole character to fight against in the franchise.
I never liked how in Mortal Kombat 9 he's a huge baby face, he's helping him out and stuff. When he's look at him, that guy's an asshole.
He does not look. He looks exactly what I thought he was going to look like.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
What a douchebag. When I played him and I didn't know what he looked like, I was like, God, this character is a douchebag. Yeah. Whoever uses this character is a douchebag. He looks like a douchebag. It's great.
What appears to be cargo shorts at MK3. Yeah, fuck this guy.
He looks good. He looks really cool.
Yeah. He's using his hook swords in most of his strings, which I think is a great idea because he always had them, but they were kind of saved for specials or
Yeah, I love that the characters that used weapons in past Mortal Kombat, like, and you would see in their profile, like, oh, an expert with the katana, or an expert with this weapon, or, the fans and all that stuff, and they really only did like 3 or 4 moves with them.
Yeah.
So I love that they're expanding on, like, they're doing that with Scorpion with the rope dart, like he's got a whole move list with the rope dart now, instead of him just throwing it straight. I love that.
Yeah.
And that it looks like they're kind of doing that with the hook swords with Kabal too. That shit is cool to me.
Well, and I think because when I played at the reveal event, one of the customization options that's for everyone is usually like their weapon or whatever item they use to do the most damage. And for a lot of characters, it is their melee weapon. So the Scorpion can change his katana.
Raiden and he's got the katana. That thing is cool too.
Raiden can change his staff. Sub-Zero, the kind of ice he has.
Everyone has an option for a disjointed hitbox weapon.
Pretty much. I would say, yeah, with the exception of maybe Sonya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Garrus.
That was just a theory. I don't know.
Well, I would say most characters have weapons. Most of the characters had weapons.
Right.
Baraka, obviously. So 2 parts, I guess, today. So one, obviously, we'll talk about the Kombat Kast, that just happened, and then we'll talk about. So we were both at the reveal event, and I remember I promised that a lot of people had some questions, and I know by now there's been a lot of content about what's in the game and stuff like that, but all perspectives are good, so why not give ours and try and answer some questions as best we can. So obviously, a breakdown to Kombat Kast today. We saw Kabal, and then there was a Gearus breakdown, which I'm sure was there because he's a new character, and
that was cool. That was good of them to do.
Yeah, we got to see a little bit more of what he does, and then of course they added a new feature where they have 16-bit Steve Brown back and the former Saucy Jack Ken Morris play a match called it was like Washed Up something. And,
Washed Up Warriors.
Washed Up Warriors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they play. So you get to see the guys who kind of work more often on the game play it, and it obviously the stuff with Tyler and Derek is fun, but they're not experts. And Steve and Ken both are former tournament players, and they have a little bit better grasp on how to play it and make it look more like what it would actually look like when competitive players play it. So that was fun to see.
Yeah, if you go on Twitch or whatever, and you want to watch a Mortal Kombat 11 tournament, like this kind of gives you a better idea of what a tournament would look like. This is for like tournament style players. Because yeah, Derek and Tyler, they're just gonna jump around and just have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so we got to see a good example. Then we did have a Tyler and Derek fight. That was fun as always.
I like that Wheel of Chaos thing.
Yeah, that was funny.
That
so
was
they
funny.
have a wheel, spin the wheel, make a deal. They spin it, and they have some, wacky thing. So it was like one was like no blocking, and they were like, we don't do that anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, it was funny.
And then they ended it with a Q&A, and then they obviously kicked it that there will be a Kombat Cast next week on Thursday, and they will reveal a new character, a new female character.
Right.
That will not be Devora, who was shown right afterwards on an unrelated Xbox stream or something they were doing where they showed Devora. So she's back. Hopefully it won't be as dumb as, she won't have a dumb shoulder barge or something like that.
She had the best shoulder barge.
That is the greatest shoulder, I think, in the history of games. Like, that's a full-ass combo.
Maybe Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 2 or 3.
Yeah, we couldn't play as him, though.
I mean, what's his name? Kotal Khan's shoulder was good.
His was good. His was good. It wasn't safe.
Probably not Devora's, though, yeah.
I think he had one. One was safe, but it just was a knockdown, and the other one was a full combo, but it wasn't safe.
Glacius' Cold Shoulders combo starter.
That's true. Cold shoulder. That was a good move.
But it's unsafe.
I think Devora didn't also, I think at the beginning she had the run cancels with it. So you could do forward 1-1 cancel, and it was like, alright, now she has a 50-50 shoulder.
I always found it weird with that shoulder. I think, everyone notices that, but she's got all of these, stingers and stuff, and, the toughest thing about her is that damn shoulder check, man.
Yeah, that is kind of fun. Like, her down
that hockey shoulder check.
Or down 2 all users.
From that insect lady.
Yeah.
Man.
Not very big.
I thought so. I was going to talk about a little more about Kabal.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about Kabal.
I like those variations with the custom variations and all that, and the special moves. What is going on with that, man?
What do you mean?
So they made like a tribute to MK9 Kabal with the dash canceling and the low saw buzz saws, and then they had the air bird Kabal pretty much.
Yeah, is that a jetpack of some sort?
And then there was a different one too. But it's just like
throw buzzsaws in the air, yeah.
Yeah. But like, what is going on with all these things? And we still don't even understand what the tournament format for these things are.
Yeah, it's been a little unclear. I've heard a couple different responses.
What is going on?
As far as I know, what it seems like they're heading towards is that just like, MKX, there's going to be 3 variations they'll do, for a competitive type mode. Otherwise, they're customizable. But we haven't heard a lot of information since then. That was like around the time of the reveal event. So we haven't heard any more on how that's going to work.
God, I hope they're customizable. How cool would that be?
That would be something.
I heard there was like a point system or something that someone was looking.
Well, there was. So each
special move has like a point.
My guess is depending on how good they think it is, there's a weight to it. So
there'll probably be something like 10 points max, and then you can put the moves in combination.
Well, it's how many slots it takes up is how they work it. So
slots, I see.
Some take 2 slots, and then, for example, Garrus's thing where he can rewind time for 4 seconds, that takes 3 slots. So that will be the only special he could have.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's a good move, yeah, so.
I would like that better than the variation system.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll find out more as we get closer to, my guess is closer to like the beta and stuff like that.
It seems like there's a lot of moves though.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through some of like Ketchup and Mustard's videos, some characters have a lot of, Sub-Zero has a ton of moves, Scorpion has a huge amount of moves.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how varying they play. Like, Bird Kabal played totally different than the MK9 Kabal versus, I can't remember what the other one was, but.
Well, one of he had like a gas move.
Oh yeah, the gas one. That was interesting.
That he could shoot out and.
Right. Yeah. And he had the low projectile. That's a different thing too with him. Man, like oh yeah, it was 50-50 Kabal. That's what it was.
Yeah, he had the low hook. He had the low hook. Yeah.
Right. I mean, those are 3 totally different characters.
They are, yeah, and well, I think what he's good at will definitely vary between both of those.
That's really interesting.
Like I know we saw that when Steve and Ken played, that Steve used the one that had the low hook and the air projectile. So he was pretty much just throwing that air projectile.
All this is all such a tease. That's what I'm like. There's no way like we aren't going to be able to use some like these moves in tournament, right?
Yeah, definitely. My guess
is I don't want to get hyped up for all these moves and then like half of them I can't use.
My guess in tournament, and what
I'll be like super disappointed.
My guess is what my hope is that there'll be 3 variants, that you can use in tournament, but what they'll do is they'll make sure every special that you could technically use as customizable is there. Just not like not all in one. Like unlike Injustice 2, which had gear moves that you would never see outside of, when you use them in the specialty mode or whatever. My feeling is that what they want to do is make sure all those specials are available across 3 different variations for tournaments and not have it be an Injustice 2 type scenario where there's gear moves that you'll never see, and that's pretty much it.
So it could still be like the MKX variation system, possibly. But they keep saying, like, if you choose to have this move or blah, blah, blah. Like
they do keep saying that, and, again, we're not the target audience, so that is something you probably have to consider. But, yeah, I mean, it is interesting, their choice of verbiage, which is always a choice. It's not usually a mistake.
True. I mean, they could just be talking to the casual audience, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
speculation.
We will see. Yeah.
That is cool, though, man. Like, let's be real. Like, that's pretty badass. That's one of the things that makes NetherRealm Like,
yeah, you look at like the Sonya ones where it's like she can have like a full-on drone out that's shooting projectiles.
that's one of the things I like about NetherRealm is they are not afraid to just do some crazy stuff, dude. Like, you look at Street Fighter or a lot of the, traditional fighting game franchises, they just stick to the blueprint. They change very little. They change as little as possible.
Yeah, they play it pretty safe most of the time.
They hold their cards close to the chest, and they're just like, this is what's worked in the past. Let's just improve the graphics, baby. Throw in like, an extra meter here, and have it do something different, and replace that meter with this, and
yeah.
blah 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 blah. But ultimately, everything's you can do maybe a custom combo, something new. But ultimately, always the same. It's a life bar. You have your special moves. You have your meter. You have your super. But man, I love that the NetherRealm is just totally just flipping the script. They just the meter is like timed now, autofill. That's so cool. That's
probably a first.
The supers are only pretty much used to close out rounds and close out matches, so that way they get featured more. That is a brilliant move. Like,
and
that's
they're not
great.
tied to any other bar. Yeah, because one of the problems with, I would say, supers and or X-ray moves as they used to be, you just would never see them because the metered options were so good. And
right.
Obviously Breaker would take out 2 of them all the time. Breaker's gone.
Right.
Which I would say has been a staple of Mortal Kombat games for a long time now.
Well, I guess kind of. You can use that drop
You
thing.
can, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. I guess it's the closest thing to.
Yeah, it's the closest thing to it.
Yeah. But I just love that they're just you gotta do different stuff. Like, you never know when you might stumble upon a better way to improve a whole genre. You know what I mean?
It's true.
You gotta do different stuff. Like, remember when like Nintendo wouldn't even be in video games if they didn't just try stuff. Like, Nintendo, like, when they started off, didn't even have like a niche or like any real like item that they were committed to making. They were just literally just doing random things. And then they came out with, the Game & Watch. Like, let's expand on that.
A trading card company, as far as I understand.
Yeah, like, they're just into some mischief, pretty much. But they branched out into that, and, obviously. And then look what happened with Halo, with the regenerating health and first-person shooters. Like, that was such a big deal back then.
Yeah.
That whole concept of regenerating health. Like, you get in a firefight with someone, and, like, with like GoldenEye or a lot of the old school Doom.
Yeah.
You would get in a firefight. If you played multiplayer, you get in a firefight with someone, you might win that firefight, but you're like almost dead.
You
then the next time you see them, they just, hit you one time, and it didn't even matter that you won that thing. So the whole idea of just, you won that firefight, and then you survived, like, for the next, like, one-on-one fight or something. Like, that was such a cool, that everyone wanted to play first-person shooters I never understood, because I didn't have an Xbox. I had a PS2. Everyone was just, and like, that's when everyone was just like, oh, Xbox, yeah, okay, Microsoft, like, you're gonna get in the game, okay. And then everyone was just going nuts about Halo. I'm like, what is the big deal about Halo? And that was like the big thing. It was like, dang, regenerating health, and then, obviously everything else about the game was good too. But
yeah, I
love that NetherRealm is just going, like, they're doing different things, and they might stumble upon something that, like, maybe change its fighting. I mean, now we're just going nuts. But you can't even talk about, finding something if you don't try different stuff. So I love that they just go nuts and they just do what they think is progressive and everything. So that is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta appreciate, like, there's games, like in the 90s we had like Darkstalkers, which took the Street Fighter formula and was like, just what if you could chain every move together? And what if you had 2 different health bars?
Right.
Yeah, they have.
God, people are so scared to do different stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's
I
great.
like it. It's good, but like Tekken 7 is one of the biggest games right now. That is the example of there's Tekken 7's obviously different, in some areas, but it is very much playing by the formula with some tweaks.
Tekken's pretty much been the same since Tekken 5.
5, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. where they really just started the whole game changed where it was more about combos than it was about mix-ups. Everything was about combos and getting them to the wall and doing a combo. But
And I also think that when you innovate like that, a lot of times it's what gets people back into talking about it. It gets it, because
it gets the idea, it gets the wheels turning.
Because, like I would say, and I'm not going to say it's like a flop or nothing, but, Soul Calibur 6 came out. I like Soul Calibur 6, but it doesn't reinvent the wheel very much. It pretty much is Soul Calibur as Soul Calibur has been. With some changes, no doubt, like Reversal Edge and stuff like that, but it's, if you didn't like Soul Calibur before, you're probably not going to like it now. And I think sometimes when you've been gone for a little while and you haven't made a new game in a long time, sometimes I think you got to take that risk. Do something a little different, And none of the MK games play like the other, which some people don't like, but I think that's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that's the benefit of being part of the NetherRealm. If you play NetherRealm games, you don't really need to play a whole lot of different games to get a different experience.
Not really, yeah. Injustice was the only franchise where they decided it was going to be kind of like, a legacy title. And, my guess is that would explain the somewhat sort of tepid reaction to it, where it was like Injustice 1 wasn't a popular game. Injustice 2 was almost the exact same.
Right.
So if you didn't like Injustice 1, you weren't going to like Injustice 2. But with MK, it could be wildly different, every time. And so, on that note, let's talk about, so you and I were both at the reveal event in LA. We actually were able to get a decent amount of time thanks to our friend, Brian Dawson, aka Dr. Dog. He works for Prima, or he writes articles for Prima and Twin Galaxies. He needed some footage taken. So we were able to play in the private area for a little while. And we got a really good feel for the game. What were your first impressions?
I mean, it's different. It felt a lot of walking based. It reminded me of MK2, which was a very walk heavy, But
that was back before mobility in games was really advanced beyond walking.
MK2 was great, in my opinion. I played it. It was actually a really good online game on the PS3. This was my experience with MK2. Obviously, like, growing up with it, playing it with friends was super fun, like, casually, but when it released on PS3, there was, like, a significant, I wouldn't say there was lag. But it made the game better, because the game offline is a turtle fest, where it's Injustice nightmare, where you just walk back and literally react to everything. Imagine that. Imagine Injustice like times 100. But with online, it actually made it to where you couldn't react to everything, so it made the game better. And it was a lot of walking back and forth and like kind of hiding special moves to get people to block. And then once you get people blocking, then you can kind of get your way in. So that's what it reminded me of me. It was fun. I had a great time with it. I love MK2.
I agree with the idea, like, if you're going to compare to MK games, some people were saying MK9. I think you actually have to go back way further. I think you have to go back to something like MK2, with more mobility, obviously. It's not quite as stinted, but, the one that it reminded me a lot of, and I don't know if you'd agree or not, is, Samurai Showdown.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Where it's slower paced.
Right.
Samurai Showdown has a run instead of a dash, but even the run is not very fast in that game. Like, it's a move to close space.
It's really telegraphed.
Yeah, it's something you use because Samurai Showdown has long stages, so you'd want to close the gap with the run, and because jumps were really big a lot of times, so
right.
You'd want to run. It was big weapon moves, so big normals that you were swinging around.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, combos were there, but especially in the earlier Samurai Showdowns, definitely not emphasized. It wasn't until later that they started to even have what you would consider a traditional combo type system. And MK11 definitely has combos, but they're just not very long. And they're not your main damage dealers, I would say. So that was definitely the impression that I got. So I would think, the most exact Samurai Showdown game, I would say Samurai Showdown 5 Special, which is like the one that most people play now. Like, that even has like a hop. that has, attacks from it, like overhead attacks. And it has, minor combos, and really the best characters are the ones that can throw out the biggest normals and make you have to guess between their 50-50s. So that's how I thought the game played. I liked it. I definitely had to get used. I'll link it when I post this on TYM and when I post it on Twitter. There is a YouTube video of our match that we played. Yeah, I checked that video the other day. It had like over 500,000 hits.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of MK11 gameplay footage. It's just the gameplay, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not very good. I'm not saying it's like a masterpiece in like technicality, but it's me as Raiden and Slips as Scorpion. We're trying to get a feel for it. So you could see, like, we're both getting used to the mobility of just trying to walk back and forth. So we're not doing a whole lot. And I think that's what you're going to see in the game for a little while when it comes out. I don't want people to get the impression that it'll be a very defensive-based game. It may be, but I think definitely at first the easiest thing in the world is to do nothing and react to what the other person's doing who doesn't know what they're doing. So that'll be the way the game is played, I think, for at least a little while. Obviously, the offense will open up.
Yeah, every time a fighting game gets released, the defensive keep away is typically the best way to go.
Yeah, because it's much easier to let someone do a move and miss.
Until you understand the mobility and still players understand the mobility and recognize, like, the projectiles and how to handle them. What's the best way to get through projectiles? What's the best way to close the gap? Yada yada.
Know how to do their offense, how to run their offense.
Yeah, like it's going to take time, but I mean that's the evolution of playing fighting games, though. Yeah. And then that gets figured out. I mean, we've seen it time and time again through all the fighting games throughout the decades.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, they finally listened to us, and, the 50-50s are gone now. That is not the case that I found when I was playing it. I felt most of the characters had very good mix-ups up close. It was just that I made a kind of a thread about this on Twitter, and I guess I'll go into it like an abbreviated version of it now, where I talked about how I understand why a lot of people, even if they like the way the NetherRealm games play, like with the dial combos and stuff like that, one thing they can't really get into is that so many situations are binary in a lot of the games. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, in MK9, if you're playing against a really good character, like, say, Johnny Cage, right? And he's got the pressure running on you, that game is so whack in some ways, like, there's no input buffer and pokes are really bad for some reason. That is one of the worst situations to be in, but it's a very common situation because it's so easy for him to do, right? In not in all matchups, but in a lot of matchups. So it's like, what do you really do? Do I armor out? Well, I could get a bug that doesn't come out. Poke out? Well, my poke is punishable, and it doesn't really get me anything if I hit it. And there's a buffer system, so it's hard to get out. So I either just take it or die, basically. And there was a lot of the ways the pressure in that game was like that, especially with Sonya. If she had EX cartwheel loaded, it was like, what do I even do? Like, I can't even jump. It'll hit me out of my jump. And then in MKX, I would say what it was like is that, you do a string on somebody, and a lot of characters had safe armor that may not, and by the end of the game's life, probably wasn't going to do a full combo, but it was safe armor that just made every situation like, man, there's nothing I can do to that. Like Shinnok's shoulder barge, where he could burn the second meter to make it safe.
That might be the best shoulder move.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, there was nothing you could do. And he's an example of a great character. Let's say example of a character who's probably not that great, but was still annoying, was like Possessed Kenshi. He had that shoulder, he had a version of his barge where it sent like a demon out, but it hit all around him, and it did a splat knockdown, so it didn't get him a full combo, but it was safe. It was hit all around him. It was armor, and NRS armor is dumb in the sense of, like, there is no counterplay to it. Like, when you put armor in most games, there usually is some sort of counter, like in Street Fighter type games, it's throw. In like Killer Instinct, for example, all fierce punches break armor. But there is no counterplay to NRS armor. You can't even throw it. Like, it just beats everything.
Right.
So you'd had a lot of situations where it was like, okay, this character has this safe armored move. I can do my string, but I'll be negative. I have nothing to counter that. And also because it comes out very like in the first frame. So there's nothing I can do to counter this situation. And while I'm looking out for that, if they hit me with like a down 4, the mobility's so good they can run up and immediately do their best mix-ups, and I kind of have to hold that. So like I said, it's very binary. You got the feeling that you didn't get to play as much because the situations got so crazy so fast. With this game, the armor is, there wasn't a single character, I think, in that build that had armor beyond like interactables. And my guess is there's not going to be a lot of characters that will have armor. It was only on interactables if you spent a bar on them and during that flip out thing that they have.
And fatal blows.
The fatal blows have them, but it's not on the first frame.
Right.
So, like, we even saw today on the Kombat Kast, Ken tried to armor out of a string and he got hit.
Right.
So, that's gone, and the buffer system's been fixed. A lot of the input problems since, like, MK9 have been fixed, so. And also, just, like, if you think about it, you know, when you need a wake-up attack in this game, you have to have 1 bar of each of those bars, and the one that gets a combo is not fully invulnerable. So if you're getting meatied, you got to use the one that's, you know, low risk, low reward, where it's just a strike. And it gets them off of you. It's fully invulnerable, it gets them off of you, but it doesn't lead to a full combo. So I think, again, the idea that more people can have more interactions after, like, a combo string ender or during pressure and things like that is way better than it has been in previous games. Like, you would do, like, EX teleport with Scorpion, which I knew was safe. But it wasn't like, oh, he did EX. It's not like, you know, Injustice 1 where it's like, I did EX teleport, I get to jump now and it jails. But it was just like, okay, he's negative enough, but we have a bunch of options here. We can walk back, we could dash back, he could jump. And there was more interactions, I thought, and none of them were like, oh my god, you're going to lose all your life for doing it either. Because I felt sometimes mistakes, when you make errors in these games, sometimes it's a small error, but it's a brutal response. Like, I got hit by down 4 by Devora, for example, and now she gets to hit me, you know, in the early part of the games, it's like she got to hit me with a 50-50, and it took most of my life, you know, it did like did half my life. So, taking that away and making it so the reward is not as good for landing these mix-ups, and they're a little bit harder on block. Like, a lot of those characters, like, if they had an overhead, it was really long. Like Scorpion. Scorpion had this, like, flip kick overhead. It was pretty good, but it was really long. It took a while to come out. It splatted on knockdown. It didn't lead to a full combo or anything. It was just there to be annoying. And he had a low that went to full combo, but I think it was unsafe on block or something. That's what it felt like most of them was. So it's not like their offense isn't like up close, isn't still based on making you guess between really good things. So the reward for it isn't as great. And if you block it, if you do manage to block it, there is some sort of reward for it. And that's not even factoring in flawless block, which it looks like some really good strings have gaps in them that you can flawless block and use that uppercut to take some damage back. So, like I said, I think there's more options than ever for players to interact with each other. I think that's great.
I noticed, like, they couldn't... I love the wake-up system. Like, how it's just totally streamlined.
Yeah. Well, and because that was a problem. That was a problem before, I would argue. Where
that was a choke point for a lot of players, I think.
It was, yeah.
A lot of people, like, a casual doesn't know how to get up.
No.
So, that's pretty cool. I did notice when I was playing, at the reveal, like, you couldn't mash up 2, or you couldn't mash up 3, like when you got knocked down. You did have to time it. So that's kind of interesting. It's like the system is catered more towards the casual, but you're still going to have the calmness of a skilled player to actually do the wake-up attacks. It was interesting. I think the system is great. I wish it was for a casual. I think it would help casuals if they just made it a little easier. Because it's easier to just say, hey, hit up 2 when you're knocked down, and then I would mash it. Because I'm trying to just, you know, be a scrub, and it wasn't coming out, and it wasn't until, like, man, I really gotta, like, time it. I don't know. It's interesting. It's
my guess is that we just, you know, the timing is actually probably pretty simple, and we just don't know because we only got, 45 minutes.
That's true. That's true, too.
Because if you watch the stream today, those two
maybe
guys
if you give it more than, like, 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and even, like, Derek and Tyler were getting it all the time when they tried.
That's true.
Yeah, so... One thing I do like about the wake up system is, so in a lot of fighting games, particularly, ones that like Arc System Works makes, so like anime games, what they do is the character strength is sort of defined by how good the character is in their own tools, and not that they usually kind of abuse one part of it better than the other. Like, they have a lot of universal mechanics, is what I'm saying. So like they'll make some games where every character has a Dragon Punch type move, right? It's either a uppercut of some sort that's invulnerable, or like a counter or a parry or something like that. And they do that because they want it so it's like, okay, we don't want a character to be good because they're one of the only characters that have an invulnerable reversal. Because that is what upsets balance a lot. It's like something like that. Like, for example, Kotal Khan having that for a while, he had that overhead armored wake up.
That move was ridiculous.
And it hit jumpers. That set him apart. Sure,
that was out of control.
And he also had, a 3-hit string, and so like there were characters like Devora that couldn't even wake up against him.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that really gotta be one of the like best moves I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Was that overhead hits everything in front of him for like half screen launcher?
Yeah, that
super
was
fast. Hits jumpers. Oh my god. I literally I played Scorpion and Kotal in just that version of Kotal. Just because I just wanted to derp with that move so bad.
That was the move to derp with. I mean,
it was great.
Yeah. So, taking away that sort of like, okay, this character is just like, okay, I knock him down, I can't do anything against him. And it's like, well, we want characters to be able to take advantage of situations where they make the right reads. So let's have everyone have an option to get up. A fairly good option that's invulnerable and stuff like that. And even, depending on some character, it might even be safe because the reward's so low. But you can do that because, if that uppercut one was safe, yeah, I'd say like that's bullshit because, you get a full combo out of it. But the one, if the one that, kind of hits on the ground and is a single hit knockback is like mildly safe, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. I saw some people kind of freaking out about that. But to me, it's like, well, if it's not, a huge reward.
Well, it sounds like you can just jump it and really.
Yeah, and obviously it'll depend on some characters, because one thing they do make them set apart is the animations for everyone are different. Mm-hmm. So what they do, like Raiden's, for example, was like a ground pound.
Right.
Whereas Scorpion's was like a slice of his sword or something like that. So
Garrus had the big sand explosion around him.
He had the sand explosion, yeah. So it'll different depending on the character, but they still get to use that in the same way. So I think making a lot of those, and making meter build universal is going to be a huge buff, because that is what set a lot of characters apart too. Like Kabal and MK9, for example. He could just do Gas Blast so much that it never really bothered him to use Breaker or
Armored
any armor. His
dashes.
Armored Nomad Dash, yeah. That was cancelable. He could use all of that, and he always built meter because he was always doing a special move, because a lot of MK games are based around special moves and not the normal moves. And MKX, the characters who could do advanced pressure through dash cancels and stuff like that, they built meter way faster. So they had more meter to use all the time. Now the meter gain is normalized across the board.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Another thing is that it seems like generic EX moves, like, how like you do an EX move at the start and it automatically gives you like armor or something, that is kind of gone too. It's now sort of the amplification system, where you have to do the normal move to start and then do an additional button press of a different, and it differs depending on the character, to enhance the move. And it's not like, oh, we just do an EX move and they go through, they go through fireballs or something. That doesn't seem like it's a thing anymore too. So that will also help, I think, even out the battlefield. And it sounds like we're talking a lot about nerfing options, and I don't think that's what it is. I wouldn't look at it that way. I would think of it more as
getting rid of stupid stuff.
Yeah, what specifically lended to imbalance, which was, okay, this character gains more meter than the other one just by default. Do we really want to take away that character's thing? No, but how do we fix that? And it's like, well, just fix the way meter builds, and maybe that won't be a problem anymore. This character has a really good, it's very hard to pressure them on wake up. What do we do about that? Make it so that everyone has the same move, and
like, how good a character's wake up was literally a determinant of how good, like, that character was. Like, that was like a category.
Absolutely.
How good a character is.
Yeah.
How good is their wake up move?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that this all stream, like, that's not even an issue anymore.
Yeah, you had characters like Devora who were really good, but at the same time their wake up was so bad because it was a really slow armored move.
Right.
But now it's like, okay, now they'll be able to be defined by how good they are, how unique they are. In addition to, they have all the same options, so it's like those situations, we don't get bogged down in, okay, who can do this better? This character's so good they can just fly out of the corner whenever they want because of this move. Nothing like that, which I think is cool. I think that's a unique way of looking at it, but there's a lot of games that have done that, and they are very well received for their, their uniqueness and their balance. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, like Tekken pretty much has a universal get-up system.
It does, yes.
And that Tekken's pretty damn balanced. So to do that in a 2D game is really smart. I like it.
Yeah, I think universal options are not a terrible thing. I know older MK games had it too, and a lot of people would say they lack depth, which might be true because, again, it was a little more simplified back then. But now there's more options, there's more strings and stuff like that, ways to set it apart, and still go back to using universal options. We won't have like someone has, wake up teleport. That's just insane, and okay, I don't know how to deal with this. You won't have like a Shinnok Hellsparks where it's not like even invulnerable, but it's such an OD move that even just having to deal with it at all sets them apart. So yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
I think it's cool.
And so we got a time with it. I asked a lot of questions of any of the people that were from NRS that I could, so I think I have a kind of an understanding of how the game works. And with that, I did want to move to something that I did promise, which was a lot of people had questions, and like I said, a lot of them might have been answered. I tried and select out the ones that still might be a little more opinionated or not set in stone yet, so we can have a good discussion about them. So one of them was Jugs on the 2AM forum. He asked, he had two questions that were kind of related. So it was like, is dashing and dash blocking as bad or as slow as it look? And if so, is there much point in dashing or dash blocking over just walking? And with that, how does the overall movement feel? Does it feel clunky or does it feel smooth and in complete control of your character? So dash blocking, so this is where I think the MK9 comparison gets a little out of hand. In MK9, you could cancel dashes at any point with any move. So the movement was really good because you could dash block, and you already made up like 3 character spaces or something like that. In this game, you can only cancel the dash at the very end of the movement with a special or a normal or a block. So you don't get to really move quickly with the dash. And dashes are slower, so again, it's not really like MK9 where you could just make the movement up really fast by dash blocking. You only block at the end of the animation, so you can use it to move around for sure and during combos to, if you need some extra range, but for movement purposes, dashing is not much more than, like I said, like the Samurai Showdown run, where it's like, it's a gap closer. I wouldn't say it's a very good offensive move. Your thoughts?
Just walk, man.
Walking is definitely, I think, better. And backdashes were, in my opinion, back to MK9, where they weren't invulnerable and they didn't go very far. They were okay, but I wouldn't use them.
Just forget about dash blocking.
Yeah, I would say dash blocking, get it, like, that's not going to be...
Short answer, forget about dash blocking.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah.
You can do it if you want. It's probably not going to be the best way to move around.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. Especially because, like, if you want to get, like, a flawless block, I think dash blocking is not going to help you do that.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't say it was bad. I would say it was definitely slower. And walking was, easier to gain control of your character. Now, when you did move, I did feel like the walk speeds, I think, were universally pretty good. Like, even Garrus didn't move super slow, even though he's a big guy. So, I think they're going to have it pretty, universal. Character walks pretty
The
decently.
camera's pretty tight, yeah.
Camera's pretty tight, yeah. The stages are longer than they might have been in, like, MKX, but the camera's pretty tight. Jumps are definitely slower, too.
Yeah.
They made it, a lot of characters don't do like, the classic MK, they flip when they jump. They don't really do that as much anymore. So that kind of slows down a little bit. Whether or not they're easier to anti-air is opinionated. If you see a lot of footage, what you're going to see a lot is jump kicks are really good. But since jump kicks don't really lead to much in most situations beyond a knockdown, I would rather have those be good than jump punches.
Yeah, I don't see too many jump punches. Like, land too often.
Yeah, they're
They just don't cover as much ground.
Space.
So
yeah, I don't think you're gonna see a Kodal jump 1 or a Sonya jump 1 level jump in punch.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're telling me. Jump kicks, like Baraka had a really good jump kick. Sub-Zero had a really good one. And if those are good, I think that's a little bit better. Obviously, some characters can do air movement to cancel off them, like Raiden can do his Air Superman. And, some other characters have air moves, but I think to me that's better. Like, if we had to have a jump attack be good, I'd rather it be the jump kick. Because at least they don't lead to as much. And also on block, it's not going to be like they get guaranteed pressure after a jump kick. So, yeah, they might be a little good now, but that's fine. And I felt general movement felt good. Like, I think I felt like I was in control. I would feel like I was fighting the controls, which sometimes you can't. Like, especially like with Tekken, you can sometimes, like if you're new to it, you might feel like you're fighting the game a lot to move. So, no, I didn't feel that way. And then he asked something that we also kind of got around to, which is, were you able to test any properties of the universal wake-ups? Were they safe on block, easy to bait out? Some of them were safe. Some of the invulnerable single hit ones were safe. Others weren't. None of that frame data is set in stone, so I'm not going to quote any. But I would say in general, like I said, the up 2 that's invulnerable to jumps. And then the up 3 one is a single hit on the ground, so a lot of times you can neutral jump or something to bait it out. So they work in tandem, I would say. When you get used to trying to bait out the one, you might get hit with the other one because you try to neutral jump. So, but on the other hand, that one's not invulnerable. So if you time your jump right, you still might be able to knock him out of the uppercut. Depends. I still don't think they're gonna be as big of an issue as like Injustice 2. This bugged me all the time. Was like you'd have a character like Darkseid who'd have a flying knee that was plus on block and it knocked you all the way across the screen on hit. He's a big zoner character. Just why? You know what I mean? Just it's not the worst thing in the world. I didn't even think Darkseid was that good. It was just annoying, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna be dealing with something like that. So
that was so annoying, man.
It was. I mean, but it's kind of like a.
That's the thing with 2D games. Like trying to figure out how to keep your momentum against crazy wake up attacks like that, and it's in Street Fighter 2 with like awesome teleport, and there's always like crazy wake ups that certain characters have that you're just like, what the heck do I do against that? So
yeah, but I would say in Injustice or some other games, it was like okay, almost everyone had an attack like that, where it's just like. Fuck it, like it's a safe wake up attack, and it's like, oh yeah, I can jump it, so it's still annoying.
Some characters would have it, and some characters didn't, and that was like a huge talking point. Like, which kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, yeah, Darkseid's knee, Deadshot's knee, like super hard to counter. Like, it takes a hard read to really beat those. And then you had like other characters who had like garbage wake ups.
Yeah.
Like Cyborg Cyborg even now really
tackle,
still, yeah. Like
and that wasn't very good. Yeah.
Such a huge deal. Like being able to get up, and the only way for anyone to really counter it is a hard like that's such a big deal, especially when you have delayed get ups and invincible backdashes. Like
yeah, they had even.
Thank God, like just learning all of that against every character. I'm super happy about just all of it just streamlined and just, well, I don't know. Who knows? We don't even have the game yet, but the less I have to learn, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I can 100% agree with you there. So, next question was Crimson on TYM Crimson Shadow. He asked, how does playing against zoning feel when the movement options and armor are so severely curtailed? I would say, so, like, I played as Raiden, and he had really good, like, he had these new lightning strikes that hit, you have to aim them, but they're all really good. But I felt like most of the projectiles, if you blocked them, and even better probably if you flawless block, you got to at least get a dash in or a jump or something. I didn't feel like there was any projectile, like, the one I thought that was probably the best was Scarlet's, like, tentacle whip move. But even that, one of the nice things about this game coming up, and it's something I've also complained about as far as like, okay, how the players interact, is so many NRS games tend to have tracking projectiles where it's like, an Aquaman from the deep type, right? Where there is there's no aiming of it or using it at the right time or whatever. It is just a move that tracks you. And that's it. That's kind of it. So Scarlet's thing has to be aimed, and it only covers a specific spot, so you do have to read the movement. And I think anytime you have to make sure that there's reads on movement, the zoning's not going to be as like, oh my god, I can't move at all.
Yeah.
None of the characters I played, the one character whose fireball I thought was really silly was Baraka's. Because it's a mid projectile with very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, and it's not like Baraka had a ton of things to compliment that, and then he could uppercut me when I jump. Obviously his DP was good, or his down 2 was good, but it's not like he was like, oh my god, I can't do anything about this projectile. It was annoying, but you could move in against it. It wasn't, the only thing, he wasn't just keeping everybody out with just Blade Spark.
The pressure of projectiles in NRS games, obviously there's the chip, but the meter build, not worrying about that is such a big deal. Because if you played NRS games before, it's like, not only are you taking chip damage, but the projectile user is building a ton of meter for breakers or better wake up attacks. And so there was that added pressure of getting in as fast as you possibly could efficiently, and them feeding off of it and making reads to preventing them from building all this meter that you've concocted in your head. And it's just knowing that the only thing that's happening is they're just getting some chip damage and that's all, it's a lot more less stressful.
Yeah, you won't have a scenario.
I wouldn't worry about projectiles too much in this game.
Because in Injustice and MK, when there was really good projectile zoners, what the problem wasn't so much maybe the fireballs as it was what it gave them time to do, which is have crazy, for example, Zod in Injustice. There were some characters that were totally shut down by the way he did, his instant air Zod fireball. But the real problem was that it killed time for his trait to come back, which was really even worse. Or in Injustice 2, a character Firestorm was killing time for that level 3 trait to come in, and then his mix up when he hit you was insane. Batman was killing time for trait and stuff like that. Now that it's not I'll have 2 uses of meter, but I gotta save time for the recharge, which is fairly fast, but it's still not crazy that you're gonna keep getting them. I don't really think if you used your 2 bars right away, you'd be able to kill enough time to get it back really fast. I just don't see that happening. And there's no breaker too, like we said, so it's it's not they keep me out and they get to do this and this and that, and I don't have that option. Even when I get in, I can't win. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Right.
Like you said, yeah.
And it forced the characters that did get in to be, insane.
Yes, it did.
Flash and Bane and stuff like that. It forced, just an escalation theory type thing. Where if...
we had to make characters who couldn't get in insanely good when they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it really made a polarizing cast and some imbalance issues too. So I like the direction it's going so far. We'll see.
Next question was from True Phoenix on TYM. He said, down 1/4/special, does it combo? No. It's like MK before. You could special cancel pokes, but they're not true combos, so no. Jump-ins, do they jail? Again, it's like old Mortal Kombat's when you do a jump-in punch and you cancel the recovery on the ground into more strings. Yes, you can do that, so yes. Fatal blows, can they be canceled from anything or just strings or not at all? Fatal blows are basically a new special move you get, so they can be canceled from anything. One thing to note, and people have talked about this a lot, but it's just, a refresher course. Fatal blows can only be used one time on hit, and once they're used on hit, you do not get to use them again. If they are blocked, if they are preemptively stuffed, or if you whiff it, you do get it back after a decently long cooldown. But once again, you only use them once, and once they're used up, it's gone. Which I like a lot. You play Tekken where Tekken has a similar system where you get the rage arts at lower health, and obviously it changes the way you play the game because rage arts, I think, have armor on them?
Yeah,
armor.
I like that too. I hate that rage art crap in Tekken. It's like every round literally comes down to that sometimes.
Well, because it's such a good option. So I think, and it is like this in this too. Like we saw Kabal's. Kabal's literally is a teleport vanish to the other side and he hits you.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Now
dealing with that every round would be.
Yes, it would, exactly.
That's like playing Tekken and stuff. Like you'll see like comeback videos and Tekken and stuff like, and it's like, is any of it really surprising? Because like it's usually consists of someone hitting with their rage art or some crazy rage drive and hits them to the wall and then they guess wrong. And I'm just like, everyone's like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm like, how do you not believe it? Like it happens all the time. Especially like geese or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that the fact that you have to strategize it, I think is super cool. That's super cool. That it's gonna naturally force people to strategize it too. Because I think casuals will a little hit with it and they're like, why can't I do it anymore? And so you only do it once and that'll force them to want to close out with it and make the matches dramatic. That's cool. That's smart, man. It's good stuff.
And then the last question from True Phoenix was, crushing blows, are they easy to hit confirm or plan like crush counters, or is it just chaos? So, crushing blows, it's been explained a lot, but I'll use the euphemism again. They're like lethal hits in Soul Calibur 6, where they have preset conditions that you have to match. Once that condition has been set, there is an option in the options menu, and I think a lot of players are going to be doing this. So basically, let's take Sub-Zero as the easy example. Sub-Zero is an amplified slide. When you hit it for the third time, it will do a lot of damage. It'll do like 30%, right? So the idea would be that you play to hit those first two slides, and then that third slide is like, all right, I got to look out for this slide now. You can change it in the options menu. There's an option where you can make it so you have to hold the button, whatever button you use to do whatever you're going to do crushing blow with, in order to get it, so you don't waste it on accident. Like, let's say I want to do Sub-Zero slide, but I didn't necessarily want the crushing blow. I just needed the slide because it was good to dodge a projectile or something. And I had to waste the crushing blow. Well, you can actually choose to not do that. So, you only get one of those per game. It's just like the Fatal Blow. You only get to use it once. But having to be able to choose when you use it, I think, is interesting strategic-wise. And some of them are really good. Like I said, that Sub-Zero one, that third slide does so much damage.
I thought it was interesting. Like, they did a really good job displaying that on the Kombat Kast when Ken and Steve played.
Yeah, if you watch the Kombat Kast when Ken and Steve play, Ken is describing how I'm doing the slide. I'm trying to get the amplified one so I can get the crushing blow. And then he does it, and it's like, oh my god, the damage he did.
It was interesting, like his whole strategy was based on that. Like he started off the round just like, I'm doing 2 EX slides immediately. And it was like, so he had that bullet in the chamber, like just ready to go at any time he needed it. And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
And then there's some kind of neat universal ones, like if you hit a down 2 on counter hit, that will launch them up for a full combo from a down 2 and do a ton of damage, so every character can do that. Another one is that if you tech a throw wrong and tech it in the wrong direction, you get a crushing blow from that, and the throw does a lot more. It does like 25%. So, those are only used one time again, but, you know, that's pretty interesting. And some of them are like punishes, so like, Baraka isn't a good example. So let's say Baraka, you hit someone out of the air with a down 1 as a punish, and you got the little punish thing on the side of the screen. Then you did his 1-1-2. Because that 1-1-2 is used in a combo that started with a punish, that becomes a crushing blow now, and it launches for more damage. There is some that work like that, so you do get to decide when to use them. It is pretty strategic. I don't think crush counters to me in Street Fighter V are a little more. I don't want to use the word random, but the strategic use of it is far more binary in that, like, okay, Street Fighter V is a priority system. All fierce attacks are usually crush counters, so fierce attacks by default tend to be really good. Crushing blows, I think, are a little more strategic. They're powerful, but like I said, being able to use only once does add a little bit of strategy to it, because Ken could have easily like burnt all 3 of his slides immediately, but holding on to that last one really makes the slide, which is already a hard to react low, even the risk of it, you know, because it's a fully combo punishable, having it do so much damage is still worth it, even, you know, with the high risk. So Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're going to be able to plan them. I think, and that is how most characters are going to get big combo damage, because like I said again, combos are a little bit shorter this time around. So you'll need those if you want to do big extended combos or get really good kind of Oki scenarios. So yeah, they'll be planned. It's not going to be chaos. I think they're going to be a planned use most of the time.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely a cool option. It is pretty funny how similar they are to lethal hits from Soul Calibur 6. My guess is they were being made at the same time. So it's like, no one really could have known. It's just funny. Some other questions. I had a guy send an email. His name's Eric. He said, in MK9, Scarlet used health to do certain attacks. Do you know how her blood mechanics work? Does she still have moves like that? As far as we can tell by looking at her extended amount of moves that she can do, yes, she has some moves that get her health back. She has some moves like if you stay in it, your health gets drained. Yeah, so she does have certain attacks like that do either maybe take a little bit of her health to do something or takes your health and gives it back to her. So that's pretty cool. I would say Scarlet on the whole has kind of been redesigned. She's probably not going to be like she was in the previous games, which I think is a good thing. I don't think she had a lot of identity. Like, I don't think she was that unique. So to me, redoing that is fine. I didn't really have a problem with that. Slips, I imagine you didn't even, I don't even think you care about Scarlet, so that's fine.
I kind of miss the dagger cancels. Those are kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess so. Cancels in general seem to be like, okay, that's not really a thing they want to do as much.
Yeah.
Like Kabal still has his,
I literally don't care about Scarlet.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
She's cool, yeah. But I probably, if I had that question, I would have just glossed over it. Really? I would have been like, look it up in the forums, the Scarlet forums, sir.
I mean, you can, but then they asked the question, they sent the email, come on.
Yeah, they're nice. Or that's nice of you.
Yeah.
You're a nicer person than me.
The second, I am. That's my gimmick. The second one is a little more broad. It just said that, seeing a lot of those supers have, a lot of long animation and stuff like that. And do you think, if he's like, I really didn't like Ultras in Street Fighter 4, Rage Arts in Tekken 7. I think they take up too much time. Do you think this is simply how fighting games are made now, where they have the really long choreographed videos that kind of appeal to players that aren't me? I would say, yeah. Those supers and ultras and stuff like that, they're really fancy because they look cool. And they're a nice selling point when you want to do a trailer and stuff like that. Obviously, I've never been, I know some people have this problem. I've never been the type that's like, well, my momentum is broken now that they did the super. Or, something like that. I never had that problem. I know some people do. I'm not clowning on you if you do. I just have never felt like, oh my god, they did the super. Now I feel like my momentum's gone and I can't get into the pace of the game again. I don't know. Are you like that? I don't know.
No. Just no.
That response was the best answer possible. No. You were super slow. No, I don't really
That's such a petty thing to be upset about. It's 5 seconds at most.
Yeah, I mean, and also, those crushing blows go by quicker than you might think.
Have been in fighting games, the cutscene ones, since, I don't know.
KOF's been doing those Enbu supers.
Since Street Fighter 4, I guess?
Yeah, I would say the big flashy cutscene ones. I mean, and even then, some of those older
Guilty
games...
Gear probably had some. Who cares? They're cool, who cares?
Yeah, like I said, I never had that problem. I know some people, it's legitimate, a problem for them that, their momentum is broken up. But I don't think it's true. Also, I think those crushing blows go faster than it might look. It's not like an X-ray where they do a whole animation. It's literally just they'll zoom in for a second, and it pops back out to the game.
I think it'd be cool if devs made multiple supers and multiple throws. So that way whenever you hit with a super, it's not always the same super. Get 3 or 4 different supers. Have them all do the same damage and with the same wake ups. And then have this same thing with throws. We see the same throws over and over again. It'd be nice if we saw different throws. But just try and keep the same wake ups if you can. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Multiple supers kind of is going the way of the dodo.
The way of the dodo?
Pretty common. Yeah, that, they're extinct. That used to be a pretty common thing where you had, you had 3 or 4 supers. And they don't really have that anymore.
No, but those were super fast, super fast supers and stuff.
That's like
they weren't
yeah.
cutscene supers.
Like in Marvel, you would have like, one of them, like the level 3 super might have been like a cutscene type move, but they also were like special moves that kind of, got amped up a little bit.
Right. Just a thought.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that question. I want more of them.
Damn. Another guy sent me MK11 questions. His name is Villainous Monk. He asked me, is there any additional input options in the character menu besides the normal stuff like release check and such? So there is one I do want to talk about. So in addition to the crushing blow option of whether or not to hold it, there is a new one. It's called input window length. There are 3 different options: long, short, medium, and short. And as far as I can tell, this is a response to, so you remember in Injustice 2, you had that problem where, let's say you're playing Dr. Fate and you crouch blocked something and then you got up to do forward 2 and you got that healing glyph, right? Happened all the time. Superman, the rising grab, the same thing.
Worst.
Yeah. So
absolute worst.
Now it was more noticeable in Injustice because I think with the way blocking works in MK, you didn't get it as often, but it's still there. So what it felt like when I fiddled with it was that this changes how long the game, because the problem was the game held your inputs for a little too long. So when you hit down to block and you did forward, it still held the down for a long time. So when you did forward, it read it as down forward special. So what it felt like now is by changing that, what you do is change how long the game will hold your input for. Therefore, you won't get those accidental inputs as much. So if you're playing a character that, they do back forward and I held back and then I do forward and I get the special a lot. I think what you can do now is change how long the game holds that back input. Therefore, you won't get that accidental input anymore. Which is pretty cool. That's, every game, it seems like they do something to kind of fix maybe a problem that was there before. Which is admirable. It's annoying that the problem was there, but it's admirable they try to fix it. So, that is pretty cool. I think a lot of people play with it when you get it because, like I said, there's 3 different options. So, definitely play with it, but it's an interesting option. And I think, like I said, you're going to have to play to get a feel for it. But I do like that it's there.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it mattered more in Injustice, and we saw it.
Yeah.
We don't even notice it in the MK games.
Yeah. It's I think it's a character by character basis in MK, whereas in Injustice, like everyone had that problem.
Yeah. So it'll be really, and this is a mechanic I'm sure will be in the next game, like if there's an Injustice 3, whatever their next 2D game where there's blocking, where there's a back to block. Really interested to see how this mechanic turns out in the future.
Definitely. Another question was, if they're interactables, can you guys see if they're blockable or can be ducked or jumped over? So there are interactables. I would say they're pretty similar to how MKX had them. There's not one, I don't think there's a single one that's unblockable. They're all blockable. And then there's a lot of them have the escape one, so like the corner escape or the run up and dive kick off of it thing. You can put armor on them, but it takes 1 defense bar and 1 attack bar. And that was pretty much it. I would say they're pretty similar to MKX. They're good, but, there's only a couple
I
of
like
stages.
that too.
Yeah.
That takes bars to do that.
Yeah, and because that escape one is particularly is a powerful option.
Yeah. Especially the acrobatic characters, they could just fly out whenever they want.
I'm now having horror stories of Injustice 2 when I first played it, and I played against Nick, white boy. And we played on the Black Adam stage, the Kondak stage. He's in the left corner, where he's got that damn thing that he pounds, and it just does a big ground pound. That at the time was unblockable. I'm just like, what the hell is this? Just insane. Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
The one where they run up and do the dive kick. God, man, that thing is so annoying.
Yeah, I think those are still in the game, the dive kick ones.
But it takes meter now, so
it does. Yeah, so
if you call it out. Like, you can screw them up, and I guess they can do it one more time. But they can only do it twice now, at least.
Yeah.
Because we literally see, like, a Sonic Fox, or they literally do it, like, 4 or 5 times in a row, and it was just like, God. And, the punishment would just be, like, maybe, like,
a jump kick.
12% or something like that.
Yeah. Well, there was some in MK and Injustice 2 where it was the hop one, but you could hop right next to another one that was another mobility one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'd just be doing that constantly.
Right. Some of that stuff was just nuts.
How was the music, gameplay, mood, lighting like? They had headphones at the event. I didn't have them on. But from what I've heard of the music, it sounds kind of like, MK music. So if you like that, that's fine. If you don't, tough shit, I guess. I don't know. The lighting is way better. That was a problem I had with Injustice 2 and MKX. I thought it was a little too dark.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, there's like
amazing.
There's whole stages. Like there's a whole stage that takes place in the daytime in the desert. It looks great. Very well lit.
Like the streams don't actually like do it justice.
They really don't.
Like when you get up close to the game and see the detail, like it looks really good. It looks really good.
We were having lucky to play on 4K TVs.
That's nice too.
Yeah.
That might have something to do with it too.
The facial animations are insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
The fatalities, they are gross, but at the same time, because MK, it walks a very fine line, Those fatalities could just as easily be the most horrifying thing you've ever seen if it wasn't so goofy. And one thing they've added, which I absolutely love, I don't know how you feel about it, but the fatalities now, instead of having a person die and you do a pose, it ends like Injustice 2 on a slow motion ending of one of them.
Yeah,
the last
it's
action.
ridiculous.
So the Kabal one, for example, where he holds the hook sword out and you go through it and it cuts you into two pieces.
It's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah. Or the Sub-Zero one where he cuts your head off, freezes your head, and punches through it. So the last thing you see is bits of tongue flying everywhere. It's just so silly that you can't help but laugh. And I think that's an important mood to strike. Because, MK takes itself seriously, but it does walk the fine line between over-the-top kung fu action and,
it's
serious...
two different aspects that are totally separate from each other as far as the lore and the brutality of it.
Yeah.
None of the characters actually interact with each other about how unnecessarily brutal they kill each other. They know each other from different timelines. Man, you cut that dude in half, sir. That was messed up. No one ever says that. Sonya's this highly touted military,
but she's
person.
doing intense murder. She's shooting you up into a helicopter
savage
blades.
Murder I've ever seen. Holy shit!
you have
you might get court-martialed. Is that not a war crime? What you just did?
That's definitely a war crime. That's definitely shooting someone into a helicopter blade so they die is a war crime.
Just her fatal blow, taking someone and then forcing them to run towards a machine gun and having it blasted. Jesus Christ! That's a little eccentric, isn't it?
And stepping on them afterward, the big stomp.
I love how the big stomp is the final blow. Everything else was just,
the dressing to that.
Right.
Well, I also love how, you'll have, Sub-Zero's a very noble warrior. He's very well spoken and stuff. And then he rips your spine out through your chest.
It's absurd.
But like I said, they nail it because we're laughing about it. We're not even that Baraka one where he rips your face off and it looks super realistic. He ends with him munching on your brain. It looks so silly.
Well, he's Tarkarian or whatever.
He is Tarkatan. They do
Tarkatan, yeah. They did. That's their thing.
Yeah.
If any other character did that,
yeah, and
that might be weird.
The interactions, at the beginning of the round, are back, and some of them are funny. Did you hear the Ronald Reagan one today?
Oh, trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Yeah,
it's the
cool.
Gipper said, and it's what? There's another one that was great where Raiden comes in and he goes, "I've had a strange dream, Sub-Zero," and Sub-Zero says, "Of a world with a dark night and a man of steel." And Raiden goes, "How do you know my dreams?"
Yeah, I did hear that.
So obviously an Injustice 2 reference, that's fun. So it sounds like they have the what you expect from MK, where it's serious, but it also makes fun of itself plenty of times. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And they're always good at that, so I like that.
They've done a good job maintaining the cartoony fatality stuff that was encapsulated in Mortal Kombat 1, really.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant.
Some other cool aesthetic things to note. I love the character select screen where it just shows their faces really big. I think that looked really cool. One of the coolest things, you don't see a lot, but I want to mention it, is okay, so in MKX, when you selected characters, they did a motion to each other, and then they stayed on the screen and then walked off when you picked the stage.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, they will do the versus mode thing where they're facing each other, but at the top of the screen, there's a weird silhouette, a sunset silhouette of the shadows of the characters fighting.
Yeah,
it's
while
the
you're picking the
characters you
stage.
pick,
Yeah.
and it's the characters you picked. Like, it is specifically them. They're fighting.
They're doing like their special moves and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to pick the stage, and
Super
like,
cool.
yeah, it
You
looks.
can literally
really
just
cool.
watch that sometimes.
You could, yeah, it's really neat. I thought that was cool. One of the other really cool things is, so as far as like customizing characters goes, it's kind of like Injustice 2. You don't have as many options. Like, I think there's 3 options per character. But something that's cool is like the way the camera cuts to it. Like, so for example, like in Injustice 2, the character would stand still and then it would zoom into what part of the body you were changing. In this game, like when you're changing Scorpion's spear, you select which spear, and what they do is they cut to him throwing the spear and it zooms in and stops.
Yeah, that's super.
So it's like
cool.
they're always moving. You can pick many different intros and outros for your character. You can only pick 2 in the demo, but it seems like each character has at least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Different intros and outros, which is really cool. So you kind of do get to put that spin on your character. And some of them are really awesome. Like that Scorpion one where like he's like twisting with his sword and it's on fire.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
The outro where he
Dude,
wins and
they do such a good job with that stuff, man.
Yeah. Have you seen that Garrus one where it's just his head and it like goes onto his body and he rises up?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Their personality that they give these characters is great.
The personality is exactly.
I love that they just they advance the storyline with the characters, like they change, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. As opposed to the same thing every game from other franchises. Not just Street Fighter, like Tekken.
Like Tekken, Samurai Showdown.
Like they at least try. Like we're doing 3 timeline time things right now. I don't know how well it's gonna go, but at least they're trying.
Yeah. I'll give props to King of Fighters. They frequently change up how their main characters look, which I do think is cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah. One other thing
just to see like Raiden change, like
he's now evil.
Protector of Earthrealm for so many years.
Now he's taking too much
change. Yeah, like he's losing it.
Liu Kang is
and then you've got Scorpion with a Spectre, like trying to get revenge, and now I think he might be the protector of Earthrealm as far as we know. We don't know yet.
That's what it seems like. Yeah,
that was his ending in MKX. But I mean, he's completely changed.
Liu Kang is now the Emperor of the Netherrealm.
Yeah, like there's development. Like the most that you get in Street Fighter is evil Ryu. Otherwise, everyone's pretty much the same. Like, Bison's just a crazy dictator, and Sagat, I guess, is a little bit different.
The evil Ryu thing became passe in like '99.
Yeah,
we'd already seen that a few times.
Yeah, so it's nice to see characters, actually develop and like change. Like, people develop and change.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. One other thing I did want to note as far as aesthetics is that, MK has always done, the motion capture type thing, and so it's always looked a little goofy, like the animations looked a little goofy. One thing I think they've done really well in this one, so every character in Mortal Kombat has, as soon as I say it, you'll know what I'm talking about. They have this weird kind of sway when they're just standing still, like they're standing still, but they're always kind of moving their upper body or something like that. In this game, the characters in this game don't do that.
The breathing hitboxes.
Yeah, where in this game, like Sonya, for example, has like this very, like she's standing with her arms out like a grappler.
Yeah, I like that.
Scorpion has it where he's holding his spear up.
Super
and he's
cool.
Standing very solid. Sub-Zero has one where he's holding his arms in the middle. My favorite one was Raiden, who is now super tall.
Yeah, I love Raiden.
He stands up straight and looks really cool, yeah.
He's like looking down on everyone.
He's looking down on you. And that's actually canon because in the older games they used to describe how Raiden is actually really tall.
Really?
But they kind of let that go as the series went on, but they've gone back on this one to make him, I'm sure, look more scary.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's definitely really cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, and you've seen it when they revealed Kabal today. The characters are just standing a little more resolute, and they look a little tougher when they stand still and they're not swaying as much. So that's cool. I like that.
God, Kabal, he's gonna be busted.
No, let's hope not. I mean, that one thing I do like is that, like, again, his overhead low mix-up when he had that low hook was good, but it was only single hit moves.
I'm more worried about that bird one.
He'll be fine.
Man, he's just gonna jump around all day.
Yeah, but he's got to do the jetpack and got to do the full animation before.
Man, he can just do the buzzsaw straight up.
Yeah,
and
but
then
it's
he can jump, then do the little thrust, and then the buzzsaw.
Yeah, that's fine.
and then he can just jump in with a jump kick or jump punch. He's gonna get all jump punches. Because you're gonna be worried about the buzzsaw.
Why would you worry about the buzzsaw?
Because he's gonna be doing it all the time.
It's fine. Day 1 tier list, Kabal top 1.
Ooh, Bird Kabal. Top tier, day 1. Calling it.
Well, that's a very, that's definitely an opinion. I'll say that much. So.
I get excited.
Kind of getting to the end here. We didn't really want to do a whole lot of the first episode back. We're trying to make it a bit of a smaller show. We don't want to do like 3-hour epics. We don't have the time. I don't think you had the time to listen to them. But we will, since they're going to be doing Kombat Kast more frequently, we'll have more to talk about. We'll do them, bi-weekly. As I promised, way back in the day, the Slips and Hippo show is now available on iTunes. It is available on Stitcher. It's available on the Google Play Store or your podcast of choice via the Podbean website, where you can copy and paste our RSS feed into your podcast app of choice and listen to it. I've tested it. It works. It's fine. If you do listen on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play, make sure to give us a 5-star review. Helps us out as far as getting more awareness out there. So that's cool. You may have noticed at the beginning we had music. I've now added music to it. I'm going to hope the copyright people don't strike us down. I don't think they will. I don't use much of it. But, so that's a thing. That's cool. And I think it's good to be back, especially as a game's coming out, because when a game's coming out, you get a lot of, what's the word I want to use here? Shitheads that start saying things like, oh, footsies will be back, and oh, it's just going to be just like MK9, which are inaccurate at best, damaging at worst. So I think it's good to have some sense of reason out there for people to get a more level-headed perspective.
I think it's good to just squash the whole MK9 rhetoric.
Yeah, I just don't think
just forget it.
Yeah, I don't think
it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off and tell everyone now, just forget MK9 for now.
It is a more accurate comparison than, say, like how it was like MKX, but even then, it's its own thing, man.
Just be prepared to play a new fighting game. That's all I can say.
Well, the one thing I will say
is I'm literally MK2 was my reference.
And I said Samurai Showdown, so
be prepared. You're gonna have a new experience, and it's gonna be fun. You're gonna enjoy it. Trust me.
I will say it still plays like an NRS game, in the sense of how the attack strings work and stuff like that.
It'll still feel like an NRS game.
Yeah, so that'll cross over. I don't expect people to be lost forever, but that it will be different when you first play it is definitely, for sure. It's not going to be like anything you played before.
It feels a lot smoother too. It might have something to do with that input window, like you were talking about.
Yeah, well, when you can buffer things and it feels a little bit better to do that. Yes.
That is one thing I'll say about other fighting games that I do like over NRS games is their buffering systems got a bigger window. Soul Calibur and the Street Fighters, you can input something pretty much pretty late in the recovery or just during the recovery of a move, and the window's usually big enough where you can get it frame 1 pretty easily.
Yeah.
NRS games, especially, it's not too bad with special moves, but normals, that's really hard. It feels a lot better in this game. I mean, I only played it for, 30 minutes probably, but and maybe I might not know what's punishable enough to even know.
Yeah.
But it felt like things were buffering out of block a lot better this time around.
It's good to have, like I said, level-headedness, people who, for some reason, will say that a character that has a 19-frame overhead and a 13-frame low is somehow going to be easy to block in the future.
What?
Yeah, I saw Used for Glue said that Sub-Zero, he didn't want to think of as a mix-up character because he had a 19-frame overhead and a 13-frame low, and he said within a reasonable amount of time you'll be able to learn how to block him, and I was like, all right, dude.
Well, you just delay your low for about 4 frames and
I have
you're good.
A bridge to sell you, yeah.
Right.
And I think it's just, that's what I think that goes back to that real stigma of there's ways to guess in this game. Well, it's horseshit. It's well, no, that wasn't the problem. The guessing, having good 50-50s is not a problem unless the access to how you get to them is way too easy and very difficult to stop. That's the problem. you're going to see many of the characters have very good ways to open you up. They're just not going to be as safe, and they're not going to be as easy to set up as before, but they're going to be there. And I think to dissuade that because it's, annoying to block or, it's seen as like a real negative is not a good thing.
50-50s are fine. Like, you have to be able to open people up in a game. You can't just sit there and block all day. You have to have a system in place to stop someone from just blocking all day. And just
to throw is also often not good enough.
Yeah, because then you can hyper concentrate on breaking throws. You need multiple avenues of offense to throw people's reactions off.
Yeah.
So that's why you need overheads and lows. And the really derpy 50-50s are in the past NRS games, like, MKX and and the first Injustice. Injustice 2, I think, was the first where the 50-50s, besides like the extreme characters like Flash and Bane. Actually, never mind. Like launching 50-50s, there didn't seem that anyone really has them. At least not yet. There might be one option that launches, but the overhead doesn't launch, or the low doesn't launch. And they're all unsafe. Like, I haven't seen anything that's
like you had like Scarlet.
Fine. Like, I can eat a 50-50 and it won't be like, my ass, essentially.
Yeah, like Scarlet had a really long range overhead that was, I think, not quite as safe on block. And then she had a low string that had a lot of range, but there's a gap in the middle that you could flawless block. And it only launched in the corner for a combo. So I think you'll see ones like that where it's like, all right, they do, but... Or Geras had one too where it was like he has that low sand and the ending of his string is an overhead. Where it's like, okay, the low sand's super punishable, the overhead is punishable, like, it's good, but it's not that great.
I would actually be more concerned about hyper defensive people being able to react to everything at this point.
I would, yeah.
Like, if Goichi or whatever his name played MK11, he might not ever get opened up, as far as I know. Because, like, all strings, I don't know, like, it's interesting. Because most of the strings that have overheads and lows, like, you can see, like, there's going to be a fuzzy timing to them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the overheads, like, are a little bit slower, or vice versa,
or they're committed to a special that's unsafe, like Sonya's like leg grab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It'll be something.
It'll be fun. I mean, it's going to be fun when it comes out. Just actually, instead of speculating on what we're talking about, we can actually like look into it.
So in 2 weeks, we'll be back. We'll have more from the Kombat Kast to talk about. The beta comes out on the 28th of March, I believe. We'll be able to talk about that when that comes out. Game comes out in April. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait to get more time with it, and I'm really excited how it's shaping up. And I think that's all I got to say there. Slips, got anything at the end there?
No, not really. I'd say the one other thing I wanted to mention is block stun versus hit stun. I didn't notice any difference. In the past couple NRS games, block stun lasted longer than hit stun, and it did allow for option selects. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to finding out towards in the future. If anyone listens to this and gets their hands on the game, look out for that.
Let them know.
Let us know.
Very geeky thing to find out, and you might not even know what the hell he's talking about.
We're geeking out over here, yeah.
We are. I mean, that's our job, right?
Yeah.
What if I told you this didn't record? I'm just kidding.
I'd be like, well,
yeah.
Let's take another couple weeks to recuperate then.
No, we're good. All right, so that's going to be it from us. You can follow me on Twitter at KingHippo42, and he's at, I think, Slipkicks, right?
Yep.
On Twitter. We will always post when there's a new episode up. We've got hot takes. Slips doesn't post as much. I post a lot. I will post this on TYM as well. You can find it on there. Again, your podcast app of choice. You could probably listen to it. So no more. There will always be a YouTube one that I'll upload. But I would say, for the most part, get ready for it to be podcast format where you can turn your phone off. I know a lot of people complained about that, so I got that taken care of. When we have footage to look at, we will bring Raptor back in. I mean, his videos were so helpful during Injustice 2. I have no doubt there'll be a component to that eventually. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. So we'll be signing off. It's King Hippo.
It's the Slips.
We will see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye bye.
Peace.